Welcome to revision part 4, and I will be talking about the do-while loop in this clip. Just like we've done with if statements, there was a condition. If the condition is met, we carry on a certain set of statements. With the loops, we have a certain condition. When that condition is met, we want to keep doing the set of statements within the loop. So that's what loops are all about. And we will still need these, the Boolean expressions. We need to learn how to use these and how to set these, comparing variables, greater than, less than, and all that, which I've covered in the if statement bit. And a do-while loop is done like this. We have a first statement, which is do, means enter the loop. Really, there is no condition here. Notice there is no check. No guard kind of checking if this condition is met before you can go in. So the condition's at the bottom. So it can enter the loop without having to meet any criteria. So in a situation where you need to do the loop at least once, go through the loop at least once, we use the do loop, do while. So it doesn't check and it goes inside the loop and does these statements one by one, whatever is in here. And then what happens is it checks the condition. If this condition is true, it will go back. So right here, when the condition is true, it goes back into the loop. Okay. And this expression can be, of course, consisting of one condition or many conditions separated by an and or an or. And you can have not, okay? Or another option is a method that returns a Boolean. A method that returns a Boolean you can include in here. Okay, so there's many ways to have that condition. And inside the do, you can have any statement. You could have another loop inside this loop, or you could have if statements. Right, let's look at one example that was in the project. That was to keep asking the user for a valid input. Right, we know that we've got to ask the user for at least once. We need to ask the user once. They could enter the input valid the first time around, but we know we need to ask at least once, so we use a do while loop rather than a while do loop. While loop. Okay, now we go into the user input output in the assignment what we had. That has a loop that goes from asking the user to enter how many questions they would like to do, right? And then notice it's going to have this condition. In other words, when do you want to go back and ask the user again to enter a number? When they get it wrong, when they get an invalid input. If they put in any number less than 0, or if they put in a number greater than 15. Okay, that's when we go back and do the same thing again. Now notice within this do while there is two if statements, because after reading the user input, if we see this as a less than 0 number, we give a different error message to if we see this as a greater than 15 number. So that's why we have two different if statements. So anytime that you want to keep getting user input, we list the condition when it's invalid, and then inside the do while we have a check to see, is it really invalid? Only because we need the error message. Now, if you didn't want to display the error message to the user, if you just wanted to tell them nothing, just say, if you ask them how many questions and they put a negative number, you don't tell them anything, you ask again. When that happens, if you want it that way, you can delete all these if statements. You don't need that. That's only there because we want to show the error message. Otherwise, it's just those two lines, and that's all we have in the while loop. And at the end of it, once a valid number of questions has been input, that's the time we come out of the loop. So when do we come out of this loop? When user enters a number between 0 0 to 15 inclusive. Okay, when that's the time we come out of that loop. That's the only time, because then let's say they entered 14. Check this condition. Is 14 less than 0? Okay, let's do that here. Is 14 less than 0? Okay, is 14 less than 0? No, so that's false. Then we have, or is 14 greater than 15? Is that true? False. Now, false or false lead to, notice this is a false or a false, like we've done with the if statements. False or false will lead to false. And when the result is false, we come out of the loop. Okay, remember, only when it's true we go back into the loop. So this is now false, therefore come out of the loop. And when we come out of the loop, the user has entered a valid number between 0 to 15. Now let's say they entered 17. Okay, let's do that one. If they enter 17, we can ask, is 17 less than 0? That is false. Or is 17 greater than 15? Is that true? Yeah, that is true. So now we have the we have this now. We have false or true. False or true will lead to true. Remember, with the or, at least one condition is true, the whole statement becomes true. So that's true, and that means the whole while condition results to true, which means it needs to go back and ask the user again. And that's how the while loop works. And of course, when you come out of, when you cannot get into the while loop again, that means it's entered a valid number. Okay? So that's how the while loop works. And use it always when we need it to go through at least once. And there is no check here. Notice, just enters, flows in. And then maybe at a time, like a condition where the condition here might be true to start with. In this, not in this example, in a different example, let's take. Let's say if we have here do, and the expression is hungry. Okay. If we say eat, do eat while is hungry. So it's going to eat. Notice it's going to eat before checking it's hungry. It will eat, and then maybe when it comes to see, is it hungry? Maybe what if it's false? It doesn't go back and eat again. So it may have been full to start with, but it didn't check it. It just ate first and then checked it. Okay, that's the difference in here. Now that is the do while loop. Okay, that's it.